Hello everyone, my name's Bottletophornet and welcome to the first episode of Satisfactory. With this being a new series on the channel and a different game entirely to Minecraft, I did post an introduction video for those who don't actually know what Satisfactory is about. It'll hopefully get you up to speed on the game itself and what we do in it. But from here on out, it's going to be a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more like a normal Let's Play series. And much like my Minecraft one, I just want to enjoy the game and bring you guys along for the journey. Now this is the little production that I got set up at the start while doing the introduction video. I went through the tutorials and did the first tier 0, and now we're ready to start building our first production lines, trying to get some materials sorted, automating some things, much like this iron plates here, which is great. We're starting to get a decent supply without having to do it manually. And so in this episode, we're going to try and set up our base factory, get most of the basic materials like concrete, iron plates and rods, and some copper started, and from there it'll be like normal, any other Let's Play, going through and just playing the game. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get on into it. So just to expand on a couple of things that I didn't really take the time to talk about in the introduction video, there's a lot more to this game than just what I showed in that. With all the hub upgrades that I did working through the tier 0, we got ourselves this fully set up area, which is where we go to put in the building requirements like this. We select a milestone and this unlocks new things for us to use and build with. So as you can see, this one allows us to build foundations and walls for making our factories, keeps everything a little bit more organized and helps us align everything a lot nicer than trying to place it on the ground itself. There's also things like these mergers and splitters that allow for splitting up and diverting more of the materials into separate machines. So say I was producing enough iron here to go through 2 smelters, I could potentially split it into a second smelter and both of those go, one producing the plates like this one is, and the other one could be producing rods. So super convenient, something that you really do use more and more throughout your playthrough. Things like beacons for placing down waypoints that are maybe far away. Maybe you go exploring and want to remember where something is, so you place down a beacon. It'll put it up on the compass above and allow you to get to it without having to rediscover where you went originally. And one of the most important things in tier 1 is the MAM. It's a machine where you analyze different pieces of materials, things like these nuts and health items, flowers, caterium, all different sorts of ores, and it helps you unlock research that really expands the game and gets you into a place of having more equipment, having easier access to different things, stuff like unlocking power poles that can have more than 4 connections. See, this one's already full. It's connected to 3 machines and also to this other power pole over here. So stuff like that. And of course, biomass is being burned. It produces 20 megawatts of power. And you can see here that our consumption, production and whatnot is all sitting down here. Biomass burners actually only produce the amount that you need. But eventually we can automate power and have different materials or different ores actually going into machines and create a fully self-contained factory that will produce power infinitely, and we don't have to continue to feed it with our own collecting of materials. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe grab a couple more of these miners over here, set it up on a few more of these ore deposits, being iron. Now these are impure. There's 3 different stages of ore deposits: impure, normal, and pure. Impure will give you, with a Mark 1 miner, around 30 per minute. A normal will give you 60, and a pure node will give you 120. Now that can be overclocked using power slugs, rare items that are dotted around the landscape. You can see a couple of them just from where we are. When researched in the MAM, they turn into power shards that allow you to overclock your buildings and really push them a little bit further, allowing you to get more ore out of a deposit, or maybe produce more items if you've got plenty of input. So the grasslands over here, they really mostly only have impure and normal, because it is a starting area, and that's where you do benefit from going to the other areas as a starting area because they have more pure nodes. But once again, a lot more creatures to deal with, maybe a lot less of the biomass around to burn and use. Over in that direction there, you can just see we have some limestone, and just behind that big rocky section, we have some copper as well. So those are things that I'll want to start to get power lines over there, set up some miners on them, and try and get a little bit of construction started. And to do that, the first thing that we're really going to need is a couple of portable miners. As you can see from in here, the required ingredients for that is a portable miner and 10 each of the iron plates and the concrete. And the whole idea, or at least for me, the thing that I want to focus on is trying really hard to avoid the need to do manual crafting. I want to make it so that the less manual crafting I have to do, the more automation I have, the quicker I can get through the tiers and continue to expand my production lines and my factories without having to just stand there holding down the spacebar or clicking on the craft menu to make all the items that I need. So for starters, we have 1, 2, and 3 extra iron nodes over here, iron ore nodes. So we're going to make 3 of that. And then 1, 2 over there of the different types of ores. We'll make ourselves up 5 of the portable miners, and that'll get us started, because as you can see, it does take some time to manually craft things. We want to get that changed up as soon as possible. Now, I hope you guys don't mind. The start of this series is probably going to sound a little bit more tutorial-like and less flowy as I am in the Minecraft series, because this is a little bit more complicated and less about my creative freedom, which does come a little bit in the future. Our big moth over there. So we do get to get a bit creative later on as we start to build larger and larger factories and sort of decorating the outside. But to begin with, it's a lot more like math and exploration. So we're going to craft and place a couple of these miners down like so. That way they're there and prepared. And I think since we need a decent amount of concrete, you can see up in the top right for that base building milestone, this is producing plenty of the plates. In fact, I can probably already put those plates in there. Yep, easy peasy. And we'll make sure that we get the defense in our hands, the machine that we use for fighting the creatures. And I'm going to try and set myself up with a decent little supply of concrete to begin with. Oh, I should have remembered. Of course, I already had portable miners on there. So I didn't need to craft as many as I did. That's okay. We'll use them as we start to place down more miners around. That's definitely not going to be a problem. So what I might do is actually set up most of the construction phase before I apply power. I have a fairly decent knowledge of how to craft most of these things. I need more wire for starters. And we can actually put down a crafting bench wherever we are and craft up the materials that we need without having to go back to the hub, which is really handy. I will just quickly up the audio a little bit. But since this is the first episode, there is going to be some technical changes over time as we learn how to record this game rather than Minecraft. I have a lot of experience in the other, but not so much recording this one. So I'll just make a little bit more wire here to get myself set up. And we may as well craft up that concrete out of the limestone that we got from that portable miner. The beauty of this game is deconstructing like that. I actually get back all of the materials that I used on it. So it's fairly lossless. There's not a lot of consequence to adding down buildings and then realizing that you might have done something wrong or wanting to change something later on. You really don't have to worry about making things right from the get-go. A lot of people will start off just like this by placing down machines where they are and just trying to get everything down and started rather than keeping everything organized. Organization can come later, and for starters, really what you want to do is just get the items in there and start constructing so that you can continue to construct more and more. So since this is a normal node of limestone, you can see that one produces 60 per minute, a lot better than the impure nodes. And for starters, this is going to be enough to get us a decent supply because it'll hopefully constantly be running. And over here, you can see that it takes 45 limestone per minute to produce 15 concrete. Now, we don't have any power slugs, and we also haven't unlocked the ability to overclock this to, say, 90 per minute. As you can see, this is locked here. Eventually, we'll unlock a menu that allows us to overclock this and churn out a little bit more. So we will be able to split this into 2 lots of 45 and be coming up with 30 concrete per minute. But for now, we'll move this a little bit closer. We don't need to waste too much space with our conveyor belts here. And that's going to pump out just enough to make the 15 concrete that we need, and we're going to put that straight into a storage unit, because the sooner we get this started, the sooner we're going to be able to start filling that up, and it's going to be working constantly in the background. Again, a lot faster than crafting it manually, and most likely I'll pretty much forget about it and come back and find that really filled up with a lot of materials. So you can see this requires 4 megawatts of power and this requires 5. So one thing that we do need to make sure of as we continue through the Let's Play, and as you're playing this game in general, is that power is very important and you have to make sure you don't crash your system. Otherwise you're going to have to either disconnect some stuff or make sure when you start it up you have enough, we're getting a little bit of lag, you have enough materials going to crank it out. But as you can see, our max production or consumption is 13 and we have a capacity of 40. So adding another 9 to that is super easy. We'll bring a power pole over here. And then from there, we can pretty much just connect the two machines straight to it. That's going to start producing and constructing the concrete. Super easy. Once that gets going, it takes just a second to fire up. Sorry if that's a little bit loud. We'll adjust some volumes soon. But there we go. Out of the miner, into the constructor. And once that gets 3 limestone, it'll start to construct 1 concrete. Essentially, that's going to run at 100% because it's always going to be collecting enough of the limestone, but the miner will eventually become less efficient over time. Because it's outputting 60, it's going to start producing more than the constructor actually needs. And some people like to make sure that they perfectly split up all of their outputs and have their factory running at 100%. We'll see if we can do that, but there's no guarantee. So from here, take some extra power with the last connection to that line, up over this hill, and over to this area over here. Near some of the gas that is dangerous to walk through. You will get injured if you go through there. But as you can see, we have a copper node over here, also a normal, which is great. We have a lot of the impure iron nodes, but since we have so many, we're going to still get a decent production amount. But this normal one is going to be great for getting our initial setup with copper, and there are a few extras around. I can hold down V and actually scan for different resources. So if I scan for copper, it instantly pings that, but there should be one just over there, 330 meters away, and one 530 meters away that direction. So you sort of get the idea that slowly you expand your way out, and maybe you have to create long conveyor systems or even use some vehicles to transport your items back to a more centralized position. There are lots of different ways to play this game. You can set up little factories dotted around at the resource themselves, and that way you produce the materials and then only ship the final product back. So do we have enough? We do, to produce ourselves one of these. I'm going to clear out a couple of these leaves here, just so that I have, one, the extra materials for crafting the biomass, and we can use that for continuing to produce power. And 2, I actually want to probably bring a couple of machines up this direction. So, put down a smelter, which I don't have enough iron rods for. So this will wait here until we are ready. We'll go probably set up a little bit more iron and try and get some iron rods producing, and then we'll come back over there and set up the few machines that we need for that. So while I was doing that, that's been constructing its concrete, and there you go. 45 concrete, well on our way towards the 200. It's a little bit slow, but it's one of those things that I could be doing something else for, say, an hour, and if that produces 15 per minute, 60 times 15 is, I don't know, like 900. Took me a second, but we would have 900 after an hour. And that's only going to get quicker and quicker as we expand and improve our factory. Now, one of the things that I've quickly come across as a problem is because of these early level power lines, I really have to think about how I'm connecting everything, because I've filled up all of these power points, and so it's really difficult to connect more to it. And I don't even have enough ore to get myself a couple more iron rods. So it's one of those things where we're going to have to manually grab a little bit just to get ourselves started. So we'll craft that up into some iron ingots and then continue to craft that into our iron rods. And that's going to give me just enough to put down some new machines and another power pole here. And what we'll actually do is maybe crash our system for a second. There it is. So that's the first crash that we've got, and it was fully intentional, but as you can see, what happened was I shut down one of the biomass burners, and our production of electricity actually dropped under our consumption, meaning that the system couldn't handle it, and it completely crashed. The idea is to connect these two power poles. I connect back to there, and I should be able to now turn it back on, and since we have both of those now connected to the same line, everything's back up and running, and I now have access to another power pole. So I can bring that up over this way and really not focus on making it clean or anything right now. I can just get the power there start producing some more of the iron and just come across here like this to start another line. Now if you press F and click your middle mouse button, you can duplicate any of the machines or any of the items that you have set up. So I just do that with the smelter, place that down. I can do the same thing by clicking on the conveyor belt. And now we have the smelter set up to also produce iron ingots from the next lot of miners over there. Then same thing, we put down a constructor. As messy as you want, it doesn't have to be clean. Some people like to play through the entire game like this, just placing buildings down wherever they need to and making a bit of a spaghetti mess. Personally, I like to make things nice and neat. And one thing you'll notice here is this only uses 15 iron ingots per minute to craft 15 iron rods, but we're actually putting out 30. So this is one of those ones that you would get the splitter once you unlock it, split this line here of 30 ingots out, and create 2 of these constructors. That way you're producing as much iron rods as possible, or as many iron rods as possible, I should say, out of the materials that you're gathering. A lot of this game is about setting up efficiently and using the resources that you have to their full potential, but for starters, just getting the materials out is far more important, at least in my opinion. So I'm going to put another storage bin just there, press my hotkey for the conveyor belt, and there we go. That's going to produce 15 per minute, much like the concrete that we've got going over there. And that's going to allow us, as you can see in the top right, for that milestone, we now have all 3 of those items being constructed automatically, and we'll be able to fill this out in no time. So I'm just going to craft this up manually as well, get rid of the raw ore that I got out of the portable miner when I set up the new one. And it's nice to try and avoid getting too much raw ore into your inventory itself, because then your only options are to actually put it in a machine or deal with it like this by crafting it manually. So we'll let this go through, craft all that up, and we'll try and see if we have enough materials to go set up our copper area while the other machines do their thing and build up the materials we need to finish that current milestone. Okay, cool. As you can see, that is so much more time consuming than setting stuff up to be manually, automatically I should say, crafted, because look at all that. And while I was doing that, we've got 45 of these. So setting up these machines to do it for me, so much better. Another thing, if you're a new player and you are going to start, or maybe this Let's Play series inspires you to hop into the game yourself, there we go, look at that, 142 now. Wonderful. That's enough to get us through that milestone. Is as you're moving, if you hit crouch, which I've rebound to one of my mouse buttons, you slide. You can slide down hills, you can't slide up hills like I'm trying now, and it's really not letting me. But in the initial stages, for traversing quickly, sliding and then jumping while you're sliding allows you to sort of bunny hop and gain a little bit of extra speed as you're moving around. Really convenient. Alright, now that we have those few resources that we needed, we can craft up our smelter here. Since we don't have a splitter, we can't actually split the materials coming out of this yet, but there is enough, because that's a normal node, creating 60 per minute. There will be enough to have 2 smelters going at once, since it only uses 30 of the ore per minute itself. For now though, the one will have to do, and I blew my fuse. I said in the introduction video that power is something that you have to be really careful with and look out for, and already I'm going back after having played at a far higher level of this game to forgetting about power production and what I need to do. It's an easy fix though. We set ourselves up with a biomass burner. You already have 2, which are a slightly different type on your hub itself. The biomass burners that you craft yourself, they will create 30 megawatts of power, while the ones that are on the hub itself will only create 20, but they have a different burn rate. All we have to do is connect it to our existing setup and crank up the machines again. As you can see, our previous line there was a capacity of 40 megawatts, and we were using 35. We actually popped up to a 44 consumption, which was over our 40, but now 70 megawatts, we're cruising along. That's fine. The production is now going up and down, and that will probably be because of that miner over there not having to run at full capacity, and therefore it's turning itself off in small increments, and you can see that in the graph itself. It'll craft a few items for a bit, and then it'll drop off for a second as it's no longer needed because it's full. So, power problems out of the way. We can now see that this is going ahead while we were away, and it'll be producing some of these copper ingots. Beautiful. Now all we have to do is put a constructor along that line. We just had enough materials. We're going to have to craft more if we want to make more. As you can see, it says missing reinforced iron plates. That's a little bit more of an advanced item, and it's something that we will have to unlock new buildings to be able to craft because it requires 2 separate items to make the one. So it will require the iron plates that we already have automated, but it also requires screws, and you need 2 lines going into an assembler, which we'll unlock soon, to craft the more advanced types of items. So this one, we want to be crafting directly into the wire itself, and here we start to see a little bit how your factory will expand, because as I said, this is producing 60, but the smelter only uses 30. So from that one miner, we can have 2 of these smelters going to make sure it uses up all of the materials. But since this is producing 30 copper ingots, but this only requires 15 per minute, from that one smelter, we can actually have 2 constructors going, which will then add up to the 30 copper ingots, and we'll be producing 60 wire per minute. So you start to sort of tree branch out from the trunk that is the miner itself, and it's an ever expanding thing. Your factories will become ever more complicated and expansive as you start to really push how many items you have coming in, and in the same turn it pushes how many items you have coming out the other end. So since that's the last connection, and I want to make sure we have enough for some extra here later, I'm just going to craft a new power pole, add that to the list. As you can see, we just have a little spike as that constructor comes online, but it's still well under our required amount, or I should say the produced amount of power that we have. And for now, I'm just going to put that wire directly into its own storage container, but later on what you can do is turn that wire using another constructor into cable. Already it's getting pretty complicated, but trust me, once you get your head around the ideas and the basic setup, it's just a lot of repeating patterns and working out your organization. Eventually you'll have hundreds of machines going, and I will too in this Let's Play, and everything will still make sense. And trust me, it makes you feel like a genius. When you look back at a factory that you've been working on for a long time, and although there is many machines and crossing paths and all of that jazz, you can still tell what everything does and why it's there. It's a really interesting system. Well, we definitely have enough concrete now after crafting up some of that factory over there for the copper. And with a bit of luck, this other constructor over here will have been doing a decent job of creating some iron rods. Wonderful. There you go. Also enough of that. We can unlock our first milestone, the base building. Maybe not the most important, but I do want to get it out of the way, because once I do that, I can start crafting some little foundations to organize everything.
You have unlocked several structures aimed to provide the first needed to build basic factory infrastructure and improved overview. Building these will provide a grid for more advanced organizing and sectioning of your factory.
Thank you, Ada. So you can see our little drop ship disappears up there. We do seem to have some connection to something up in the sky. And as you'll see a little bit later, probably not in this episode, but one of the tiers over here in tier 2, I'll just have a look which one it is. Oh no, wait, I already unlocked it. In the special tier, the space elevator. That's a big thing. That's one of your first main goals, is to craft up enough materials. As you can see down on the right there, it's a lot to begin with, but this allows you to expand and unlock the other tiers in the hub. So these milestones that are in these later tiers require you to set up the space elevator and feed it with some unique items that cannot be manually crafted, and you have to set up production lines for them. We've still got a bit of work to do though with these ones. So this is a super important one that's going to help us to, in some cases, double our speed of production. So I'm going to select that already. You can see that's come back. It's going to plop itself down, and it allows us to start on our next milestone. So you actually have to wait for the pod to come back before you can continue on the next. And every single time it takes a little bit longer.
Milestone exchange concluded. Fix-it freighter re-entry complete.
There you go. So now we can begin to put items into here. We don't quite have enough of everything, but it's one of those things that, look at that, over time the production continues and you forget about it, and you'll have more than enough to continue adding to this and getting more out of the way, which is what I love. I really enjoy this game for the fact that every bit of work that you put in, every little piece of additional machinery and production that you start helps to add towards the eventual growth of new stages. So these machines are making the materials that I need to continue to craft more and more machines and foundations and factories. It's making the machines work for you in a way that is going to eventually lead to you only having to go collect the stuff and set up the machines to make new stuff. So over here we should... Oh. Apparently, something has gone wrong along the line. There it is. Look at that. So easy to forget something as basic as connecting two machines. Now that's completely full. All of this has been stopped for a while. Our production's not very efficient, but with that, it's up and running and we'll start to produce some wire. Cool. 30 per minute is not bad. So while most of this episode has been mostly all one take and I haven't really cut out a lot other than some dead space in between, I am going to do a bit of a time skip now. I'm going to let these machines work, start to fill up and get me some more of these resources. And I'm going to do the same thing as with these and start to get some production lines going. Maybe I'll unlock the next milestone here and get the splitters set up. And we'll try and get it so that at least these 4 machines, or miners I should say, are producing a total of 120. And I should be able to merge the lines so that these two, crafting 30 each, combine onto a Mark 1 belt, which is capable of carrying 60 resources per minute. So I can combine those two and those two into one line each. Maybe one side I can designate to crafting the iron rods and all of those following items, and then another side can be used for crafting more and more plates. So give me a second and we'll see what we can come up with, and then I'll pop back in. Well, with the in-game day coming to a close and a little bit more production done, letting some things run for a while, building up a steady little supply of this concrete as well. You can see I've got 350 now, which is beautiful. And after unlocking the milestone for the splitters and mergers, I split up the production to double our iron rod output. Oh, amazing. Already you can see the increase in productivity. So we added another constructor on that side, and I haven't actually touched those two up there yet, because we're about to unlock the last milestone in tier 1 by adding in this wire, clicking on the big red button, and here we go.
Milestone reached. The molecular analysis machine, referred to as the MAM, will allow R&D to provide new technologies, items, and buildings based on samples collected in the field. To ensure a greater chance of success during exploration, an upgraded tool belt has been provided, as well as an object scanner and beacons. Note: the object scanner requires calibration via the MAM to enable detection of specific objects.
Cool. So one of the biggest things that we get from that is, oh, you saw it for a second there, I forgot to keep it open, is an expanded inventory. So that's great, allows us to carry a little bit more as we're going around searching for stuff. I just need to craft up this biomass, because one of the things you really need to focus on early game is making sure you have enough fuel for your biomass burners. So you'll spend a lot of time doing this for starters, and then making sure that you continue to fill up your biomass burners so you don't have power outages. But the other thing is now we have access to the MAM. So I need a little bit more materials. You can, while you're in your inventory or your building menu over here, you can click that little plus sign. It adds to the to-do list on the side, and it'll keep something on your screen that allows you to know what you need as far as materials. So I need a few more screws to make some reinforced iron plates. I only need 3 more. So once we've made enough screws for that, I'll switch over and craft those. And then my easiest bet, as it's getting a little bit dark, turn on the flashlight, is to head on over to where we're already producing the wire, and I don't have to craft it up myself. Beautiful. Plenty of wire now, and we'll just head back to our hub, because I probably want to set up the MAM right next to it for starters. Keep everything as centralized as possible, but the beauty of it is, as you go out into the greater world and do some exploration, as you find new things, if you have the materials, you can place down a MAM anywhere, and that's going to let you do the research as you continue to explore. So we'll just put this just... where will it fit? There we go. And before finishing this episode, we'll have a look at the MAM. So as you can see, there's a few things that haven't quite been found yet, but stuff that we do have, we can research, and it's going to unlock new tiers of research that will give us new items. Caterium, I will say, is one of the most important research lines as far as the value of what you unlock through it. So we did find some as we were exploring around, just a little bit in a node. I'll also grab the other bits and pieces we have in here, and just like this, It only takes 3 seconds for this first research. Some take a lot longer.
New resource added to the resource scanner.
But just like that, super valuable, allowing us to search for Caterium ore. Now, I personally know where it is. It's down that direction, the nearest one, or it should be, and if we just give it a moment to continue its scan, further and further... Oh, there's one slightly closer over there, actually. The one that I usually go to is that one down there, and even further away, nearly 1,500 meters, is a third one. So we will need to go for a little bit of an explore to get some of that, to continue our research. I don't have enough to research the Caterium ingot. I need 50 of the ore. The one thing I can do is research this.
New recipe unlocked.
Which, as you can see, it unlocks a new form of biomass where we can actually craft it out of the alien carapace, I believe it's called. Yeah, out of that itself. In fact, no, we haven't unlocked it yet. It means that we can research it. It's going to use all of the rest of what we have, 10 of them, but now... There we go. And look at that. The tree starts to expand. We can get a rebar gun. As you can see, it requires some far more advanced materials to make and research, I suppose, and eventually unlock the rebar spikes for shooting items. It's a great defense weapon, and these trees also allow you to expand your inventory slots and your equipment slots. So since most of these only take 3 seconds, I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of them. This one unlocks one of the main things that will help you distinguish different factories from one another. A paint gun just lets you gather flowers from around the area. We have a few now. Turn them into some color cartridges, and then that way you can paint your machines to be different colors other than orange, and also all your walls and foundations. And what can we do with these ones? Most of these will just...
object added to the object scanner.
Like she just said, add them to the scanner. It's going to allow us to scan for those items if we want to. But that's about all that we can do in the MAM right now. We're going to have to go search for some more things to add to it and research through it. And since we finished Tier 1, we're now on to Tier 2. As you can see, I was talking earlier about the assembler. That allows you to craft rotors, modular frames, and the smart plating, which is one of the first things we need to send up in the space elevator. Then there's a very important one that we'll want to get soon. Allows you to craft solid biomass, or biofuel, a far more efficient version of the biomass that we can craft just plainly out of leaves and whatnot, and a bunch of different stuff, including a more efficient and quicker conveyor belt. So I think we're going to do that in the next episode. It's been a bit of a rambly one. It's been a lot of explanation and going through the very basic first stages of setting up production lines, but now we're already starting to put out a decent supply of materials, which is going to help us to expand and grow our factory in the coming episodes. And now that we've unlocked some of the first tier stuff like the base building things, that being foundations, we can start to set up nice flat areas like this one here, and all of our machines will be far more organized, far less required space in between, and we can get everything nice and smoothly running into some storage and continue to expand from there. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope it wasn't too boring for a first one. As things go, we're going to go bigger and bigger and achieve more per episodes as they come out. But for now, I hope you enjoyed. I hope the rest of your day is satisfactory, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.